They lied to you. Behind every flawless, sun-drenched nursery lies a $500,000 financial slaughterhouse designed to shear you to the bone. If the thought of having children terrifies you, you aren't broken. You're just finally seeing the trap. Watch until the end. Your entire future depends on it. Imagine sitting in your favorite corner of a local coffee shop, casually sipping on a $6 latte. You pull out your phone, mindlessly scrolling through Instagram, and there it is. The absolute perfect picture. A young couple, their faces glowing with radiant smiles, tenderly cradling their newborn in a sun-drenched nursery filled with imported, aesthetic wooden toys. Everything in that little square frame looks incredibly gentle, perfectly fulfilling, and completely flawless. But the exact second your thumb swipes past that image, a suffocating, invisible weight tightens around your throat. Why? Because hiding just out of frame, buried deeply beneath that warm, rosy filter, is a ruthless financial slaughter that absolutely no one dares to mention in the caption. The hesitation, the creeping dread, or even the outright terror you feel about having children right now is not a sign that you are broken. You are not selfish. You are not demanding too much. Do not let society force-feed you a false sense of guilt. What you are experiencing in this exact moment is an absolute, bone-chilling clarity in the face of an economic system that is actively and ruthlessly suffocating the pockets of the working class. WealthWise warmly welcomes you to this conversation. If you find yourself deeply resonating with these hidden realities and want to explore the dark truths society tries so desperately to bury, please hit that subscribe button right now. Your subscription is the exact lifeblood that motivates this channel to keep producing these hard-hitting, uncomfortable videos for you in the future. We desperately need to execute a mental reset right here, right now, to brutally scrub away the outdated stigmas and stare directly into the bleeding, raw data of the year 2026. According to the absolute latest reports from LendingTree, the average cost of raising a single child to the age of 18 in America now violently swings between $303,418 and a staggering $414,000. Let that massive number sink into your brain for a few agonizing seconds. Nearly $500,000 for one child. And that does not even begin to factor in the soul-crushing weight of college tuition. Now, take that monstrous figure and violently smash it against the current median American household income, $83,730 a year, before taxes. This is not just a struggle. This is a mathematically destructive systemic contradiction. Surrendering 20 to 25% of your entire lifetime's labor and earnings just to fund the bare, physical existence of a human being is an equation designed for absolute ruin. The generations before us, the ones who endlessly parrot the old chorus of just have kids, things will magically work themselves out, lived in a completely different reality. They existed in a golden era where housing and healthcare consumed merely a fraction of their paychecks. Today, they weaponize that obsolete perspective, projecting an agonizing external pressure onto your shoulders. But the brutal, unavoidable reality of our current generation is this. The universe might provide the grass, but the capitalist machine has already fenced off the entire pasture and is charging astronomical rent for every single blade. Clinging to that ancient, romanticized mindset within this predatory new economy is the fastest, most guaranteed route to bankrupting your own family. Choosing to have a child right now, without a ruthlessly calculated financial fortress, is essentially volunteering to walk blindly into a slaughterhouse so the system can legally shear you to the bone. To truly understand how this system legally shears you to the bone, we must look past the rising grocery bills and stare directly into the gaping black holes of our modern infrastructure. Housing and childcare. We are living in an era where the concept of a modest starter home has been completely eradicated from the American landscape. You are no longer competing with the young couple down the street for a place to raise a family. You are engaging in a bidding war against faceless, multi-billion-dollar investment firms that swallow up residential properties only to rent them back to you at exorbitant, soul-crushing premiums. The dream of a quiet backyard where your child can safely learn to walk has been replaced by the reality of a cramped, heavily overpriced apartment where you hold your breath every time the landlord slips a lease renewal notice under your door. But let us pretend, just for a moment, that you somehow managed to secure a stable roof over your head the exact second your parental leave runs out. Assuming you were even privileged enough to receive any in this country. You are violently thrust into the catastrophic nightmare of the modern childcare system. We are currently existing in a timeline where putting an infant into a standard, safe daycare facility costs more than in-state college tuition in all 50 states. You are looking at invoices of $2,000, $3,000, or even $4,000 a month, depending on your zip code, just to ensure your child is kept alive while you return to the office. This creates a deeply tragic paradox that is currently breaking the backs of young parents. You are essentially working 40 to 50 hours a week just to hand your entire paycheck over to a stranger to raise your child, simply so you can keep the job that pays for the daycare. It is an endless, maddening hamster wheel that generates absolutely zero forward momentum for your family's future. You are not building wealth. You are desperately treading water in a hurricane. For many, especially mothers, the math simply stops making sense, forcing them to quietly abandon their careers, sacrifice their financial independence, and watch their hard-earned professional identities evaporate overnight. The system has brilliantly cornered the working class, leaving you to choose between financial devastation or career suicide. The sheer absurdity of being punished economically for daring to reproduce is a quiet tragedy playing out in millions of households across the nation, behind closed doors and exhausted, tear-stained faces. It is a rigged game where the rules are written by those who already have capital, and the players are ordinary people who are just trying to experience the fundamental human desire of starting a family without plunging themselves into unrecoverable generational debt. Yet, the devastating hemorrhage of your resources does not stop at your bank account. It slowly and insidiously drains the very essence of your psychological identity. Our modern society has constructed a deeply toxic, impossible paradigm for this generation. You are explicitly expected to work as if you do not have children, and you are simultaneously expected to parent as if you do not have a demanding career. It is a violent collision of two entirely consuming worlds, and the human mind was simply not built to withstand that kind of relentless, agonizing friction. When you finally clock out of your exhausting job, you do not get to rest. You immediately transition into your second, unpaid shift. The exhaustion that modern parents feel is not just physical tiredness. It is a profound cellular depletion. It is a deep, agonizing time poverty where you do not even have 5 uninterrupted minutes to sit in silence, let alone nurture your own passions, hobbies, or mental health. You become a hollowed-out vessel, entirely consumed by the logistics of keeping a tiny human alive, managing household chaos, and performing perfectly for your employer. The societal pressure amplifies this internal rot. You log online and see endless articles and influencers promoting the toxic myth of having it all. The balanced career, the beautifully organized home, the deeply present parenting style, the perfectly maintained physical appearance. But no one tells you that the women and men allegedly having it all are either lying through their teeth, heavily medicated, or entirely propped up by invisible armies of underpaid domestic labor. This relentless pursuit of perfection creates a chronic, suffocating guilt. You feel guilty when you are at work because you are missing your child's milestones, and you feel guilty when you are at home because you are falling behind on your emails. Your identity, the vibrant, multidimensional person you were before the sleepless nights and the endless financial panic, begins to fade into a gray, unrecognizable blur. You are no longer a person with dreams and boundaries. You are a purely functional entity, a shock absorber for the demands of a capitalist machine that extracts your labor and a societal expectation that extracts your soul. We have to start being incredibly honest about the fact that love for a child, no matter how pure and profound, does not magically cure clinical burnout. It does not pause the physical deterioration of your body from chronic stress, and it certainly does not shield your mind from the deeply alienating reality of losing your individual self to the overwhelming, all-consuming machinery of modern survival. You might desperately hope to survive this psychological exhaustion by leaning on your community, but the harsh reality is that the proverbial village has been utterly bulldozed by corporate greed and hyper-individualism. We have all heard the ancient proverb that it takes a village to raise a child, but no one seems to want to admit that the village is dead. Its land has been gentrified, and everyone who used to live there is currently working 3 side hustles just to pay for their own groceries. In previous generations, families lived in close proximity. Grandparents, aunts, neighbors, and community members naturally absorbed the chaotic, overflow demands of child rearing. There was a physical, tangible safety net woven from human connection. Today, that net has been shredded. Economic displacement has forced young adults to move hundreds or thousands of miles away from their families just to find employment or affordable housing. Even if you do happen to live near your parents, they are likely not the retired, available caretakers of the past. Thanks to the systematic dismantling of pensions and the exploding cost of healthcare, the boomer generation is working well into their late 60s and 70s. They cannot be your village because they are still trapped in the exact same corporate machine that is crushing you. This leaves the modern parent entirely, profoundly alone. You are an isolated island expected to perform the jobs of an entire community. When your toddler catches a fever on a Tuesday morning, there is no village elder to step in. There is only a hyper-stressful, frantic negotiation with your boss, a burned-through sick day, and the creeping anxiety of falling behind. Corporate America offers absolutely zero grace for the unpredictability of human life. The modern workplace views a sick child not as a natural occurrence, but as a frustrating inconvenience that threatens their quarterly profit margins. We have designed a society that worships productivity above human connection, severing the deep, ancestral ties that once made raising children a collective, shared experience. Without the village, every single challenge of parenting becomes a localized crisis. You are bearing the entirety of a monumental evolutionary task entirely on your own shoulders. Isolated within the walls of an overpriced apartment, staring at a screen for a connection that isn't really there. The profound loneliness of modern parenting is a direct symptom of an economic system that thrives on keeping us separated, exhausted, and desperately dependent on commercial services to fill the massive, aching voids left by our destroyed communities. Standing alone in the cold, corporate rubble of that bulldozed village, you are finally forced to confront the most terrifying, yet utterly liberating, realization of your adult life. You do not have to participate in this. The script you were handed at birth, the one that insists your ultimate purpose and the only valid marker of a successful adulthood is to produce offspring, is entirely optional. Recognizing the catastrophic financial, psychological, and systemic barriers to raising a child right now is not a symptom of pessimism. It is the ultimate manifestation of radical responsibility. Choosing to remain child-free or fiercely protecting your right to deeply delay parenthood until you are genuinely ready is perhaps the most profound act of rebellion against a system that views you as nothing more than a mindless consumer and a producer of future laborers. When you look at the bleeding data, when you see the hollowed-out eyes of exhausted parents trying to survive a broken economy, choosing to walk away from that slaughterhouse is an act of incredible bravery. You are protecting an unborn life from the chaos of an insecure foundation, and equally as important, you are fiercely protecting your own peace, your own future, and your own unrepeatable existence. Society will inevitably hurl its judgments at you. They will call you selfish for wanting to keep the money you break your back to earn. They will call you superficial for wanting to sleep 8 hours a night and travel the world. They will attempt to weaponize your natural empathy against you, insisting that you will regret your freedom. Do not listen to the ghosts of an outdated era. Your worth as a human being is not, and has never been, tied to your reproductive capacity. You are allowed to design a life that is quiet, financially secure, and entirely your own. You are allowed to pour your love into your friendships, your art, your pets, your community, and most importantly, into yourself. We are standing at the edge of a massive generational shift, where the blind romanticism of the past is finally being shattered by the cold, undeniable mathematics of the present. If this raw, unfiltered look into the realities of modern survival resonated with the silent doubts you've been carrying, I need you to hit that subscribe button right now. Stand with Vuong Guinaf02 as we continue to tear down the comfortable illusion society feeds us. Share this with someone who needs to hear that they are not crazy, they are not broken, and they are absolutely not alone in making the choice to protect their own life. The future belongs to those who have the courage to write their own script. Ultimately, the modern paradigm of parenthood is no longer a natural progression of adulthood. It has become an economic and psychological trap designed by a system that demands everything and gives nothing in return. We are navigating an era where the foundational pillars of family life, affordable housing, accessible childcare, and a supportive community village, have been completely dismantled by corporate greed and hyper-individualism. Young adults are being crushed under the impossible expectation of working like they don't have children while parenting like they don't have jobs, resulting in a profound cellular burnout. The narrative that you must sacrifice your financial independence, your mental health, and your very identity to fulfill a societal script is fundamentally flawed. Acknowledging this reality is not a cynical surrender, but an awakening. It is the realization that true freedom lies in stepping off the relentless hamster wheel of impossible expectations. Whether you choose to fiercely protect your peace by remaining child-free or deeply delay parenthood until you have built an unbreakable foundation, you are reclaiming your autonomy. You are refusing to feed your future, your finances, and your sanity into a merciless capitalist machine. By rejecting the toxic myth of having it all, we empower ourselves to redefine what a successful, fulfilling life actually looks like. The ultimate rebellion of our generation is daring to prioritize our own well-being, choosing radical responsibility over blind romanticism, and understanding that a complete, meaningful existence does not require a sacrifice at the altar of modern parenting. Your worth and the completeness of your life are not defined by your adherence to outdated societal milestones, particularly the expectation to reproduce. The romanticized ideal of raising a family has been weaponized by an economic system that thrives on your exhaustion and debt. The deepest act of self-love and radical responsibility you can commit is to critically examine the reality of your environment, recognize the broken systems around you, and fiercely protect your peace, your finances, and your identity from being consumed by expectations that do not serve you. Start by muting the external noise and unapologetically evaluating your own desires and actual resources. If you are on the fence about starting a family, look at your financial reality, mental bandwidth, and support system without the lens of societal guilt. Give yourself the absolute permission to say no or not yet. If you are already a parent, forgive yourself for the burnout. Recognize that the system is rigged and stop holding yourself to the impossible standard of having it all. Establish ruthless boundaries with your employer to protect your personal time, lower the bar for domestic perfection, and actively seek out or build a chosen community to replace the bulldozed village. Focus your energy strictly on designing a life that brings you peace, whether that includes children or a quiet, independent freedom. Do you feel that society puts too much unfair pressure on young adults to have children despite today's harsh economic realities? Please drop your thoughts in the comments section below. We would genuinely love to hear your perspective and create a space where everyone can learn from each other. If this message resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button to support the channel. Your subscription gives us the momentum and motivation to keep tearing down these illusions and bringing you more hard-hitting, thought-provoking content.